Well, I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. You know, Thanksgiving is something that I thought was kind of, universally acclaimed as a good thing, and I had no idea there was all kinds of controversy involved with Thanksgiving. So, Thanksgiving, I think it's around 1620, we had the Pilgrims who had just, the ones that survived, half of them died, and in the winter, lack of food, sickness, you know how winters can be rough. Back then they didn't have, what we have, and so they were thanking God. That's why I think the government should change it to Thanksgiving to God. That's what I think it should say, because now they think, well, who do we thank? The state? We thank ourselves, we thank Mother Nature. Who are we thanking? We're thanking God. Thanksgiving to God for surviving the winter. And so they, the Wampanoag Indians, who were a very peaceful group, came over and they had a couple of days together where they were exchanging, fishing and planting techniques and food, and they had a good old time. It was peaceful. And so I was watching YouTube videos on that. It was interesting that I think Abraham Lincoln wound up setting the official date for Thanksgiving. And now you've got these people, these revisionist historians, I think it was Henry Ford said, if I want to change history, I'll become a historian. So they're rewriting history in their own weak image. So there was this lady that had this thing, and she was just going on and on about how evil Thanksgiving was. And I felt like saying, lady, General Custer was not at Thanksgiving dinner. That was later, trying to pull all the stuff that happened later on to connect it to Thanksgiving, which I think is a little out there. So Jesus is telling us, to be alert and watchful. Don't fall asleep. What does that mean? Don't fall asleep in your spiritual service of God. It's very important, because if you do, you're going to get in trouble. And he makes the analogy of the thief coming, at night. You need to be watchful, need to be alert, so that you're not caught off guard, because evil's coming to get you. It's coming to take your heart and mind and soul away from the truth and the love and the life of God and the gospel of Jesus Christ, and replace it with lies and death and selfishness and hatred and darkness. So we want to stick with Christ, who is the light of the world, and we have to be careful. So, Pope St. John Paul II talked about us having a culture of life to push back against the culture of death, which promotes, abortion, attacks on chastity, the natural family of a man and a woman. So the epicenter of the attacks are on the 5th and 6th commandments, but ultimately against all of them. And they have this thing now that they've started called hate speech. And so if you follow it logically, God is guilty of hate speech. Jesus, the Bible, is hate speech. Why is it? Well, let's see. Because God says, I'm God, I created you, and I'm going to tell you what you should do, and if you don't do it, you are liable to judgment. One of the works of mercy is to convert or admonish the sinner. But guess what? Society doesn't like to be told it's wrong. It doesn't want to be told there is a God. It doesn't want to be told it's doing something against the 5th commandment with abortion, or the 6th commandment, saying that, physical intimacy and sensuality should be outside of the bond of a man and a woman in matrimony, and that's what they're pushing. So they are at war with God. So, what did they do to Jesus? They didn't like his speech, so they crucified him. So the battle ultimately is against the 10 Commandments, Mount Sinai, Mount Calvary. That's really where the action is. So they have on the universities now, they have, this whole safe spaces thing and hate speech, and you can't come and, confront my ideas. You can't tell me that I might be wrong about something and engage me in debate, because, I might not be able to defend myself in an argument. I love a good argument. Come get me. Okay? Politics, religion, I thrive on it. I'm always looking for an argument I haven't heard before. Okay? Especially when it comes to attacking the faith, I want to hear it, because you know what? I probably heard it before many times. So they're trying to shield them from hearing anything that goes against their thought. So they call it hate speech. It's nuts. And so this idea that we have in the culture now that America is so bad, and they're trying to come up with a new idea that to basically overthrow the American Revolution, to reverse America as we know it, and make it like the other countries. Well, did someone take notice that the people from the other countries, the socialist countries, the communist countries, the dictators, are all trying to come here to have the freedom to worship God, the freedom to live in peace, the freedom to run a business, to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? What does it say? We hold these truths to be self-evident. The Creator has endowed us with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's where the problem is, the truth. The big truth that there is a God, the ultimate premise. When I go to make a decision in life, okay, so you have a premise, which is the first level in making decisions and conclusions and logic. So the big premise for everyone is there a God? Okay? So the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence violated already, because it says, our Creator has endowed us with these things. So the state, the communist state, the socialist state doesn't like that, because they want to be God. They want to be the ultimate authority. They want to be the one that can give you rights and take them away and control your business, control your medicine, control your education, everything. They want to be in charge of all that. And socialism is really a way to allow the government to become the dictator. So what happens is we kind of have a little bit of creeping socialism. Pope Leo XIII, he's just death on socialism. And Pope St. John Paul II and Benedict XVI, they all wrote attacking socialism. Because you have the right to private property, you have the right to liberty, freedom of religion, and so to have the state come in and starts to take over everything. And the businesses, and then, so what happens when the government controls everything? You have a dictator. You might say, well, these are nice guys, we're Americans. Well, yeah, maybe we might have one that's a nice guy for a while. But if you put a mechanism in that centralizes power for everything, then you have a dictator. The next guy may not be such a nice guy. When you put that power in the hand of one man or a group of people and they control everything, that's dictatorship. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the founders of America put in mechanisms to protect and defend that. Freedom of speech. They're trying to take that away from us. The media is controlling what you can get on the computer, what you can think. They want to control the universities. They want to control and block and censor. So we've got censorship, going on. It's a scary thing. Big brother, big tech brother wants to tell you how to think. And if you go thinking the way Jesus does and the way the gospel teaches, oh no, that's bad. We need to stop that. And so we need to be ready, because we're in a culture war that's a scary thing. So socialism comes along, and it's the opposite of the American Revolution. And so that's why, what people don't realize is kind of funny, because they attack capitalism. Well, I'm not saying capitalism is the greatest thing, but you know what? Sure beats the heck out of socialism and communism, because otherwise all these people from these countries with socialism and communism wouldn't be fighting and dying just to get here to this world of capitalism and its freedom. So if we become like them, where's the world got to go? Where's the hope? America is, the world's last hope at freedom and liberty. We become like them, dictatorship and control and socialism and communism. Where's everyone going to go? Where's the next America going to be? There isn't going to be one. Everyone's going to be controlled. And so the founding fathers put that in there. And then they like to talk about Hitler. That's what makes me laugh. And they use the word Nazi. Okay, they don't know what they're talking about. What do you think the word Nazi means? National Socialist Party. Okay? Hitler was a socialist. He wasn't a capitalist. Hitler took the guns away from Germany so they couldn't defend themselves against the government. That's what we have in the Bill of Rights, the right to keep and bear arms. What do you think that's about? You think that's about having a gun so if a home invasion comes and they come to kill your wife and kids or break in your house, you can defend yourself? Yeah, that's presumed. You think it's about hunting a deer? That was presumed. The idea of having a weapon to defend your wife and kids and go hunting, that was just normal back then. The purpose of the Bill of Rights, and when I took the tour of the NRA, I think, why don't they use these quotes from the Founding Fathers? Great quotes that show it's not about defending yourself from a criminal or hunting deer. It's about defending yourself from a tyrannical government so that the people don't get taken over. That's what the purpose of it is, to have weapons to defend yourself from the government. And they said when the people fear the government, you have tyranny. When the government fears the people, you have liberty. And it's also a supplemental defense. When the Japanese in World War II were getting ready to attack California, they had a problem. They said, well, if we hit them hard and sneak up on them, we can take out the American Army posts maybe that are on California, but then we got to contend with all the people that have guns, which is like a second army. Then they got to deal with the American people. Thank God for the Constitution. It allows us to defend our rights and defend our country. And they want to take that away. They want to take your ability to speak freely away. They want to take away your right to religion. Look at what's going on now. California, the governor threatening the churches if you stay open when I tell you not to. But it's okay if you're a liquor store, you can get drunk. You keep the liquor stores open, get drunk. You know, we keep Walmart open, you know, the god of retail, you know. But you know, God forbid the church is open. So we're going to take your water and your electricity away and shut you down. Total violation of the United States Constitution of freedom of religion. So the state, in communism and dictatorship and socialism, they want to replace God. They want to put God out of business. They want to shut down the church. Oh, the church tells us that it's wrong to have abortion. The church tells us that marriages should be between a man and a woman. Oh, that's hate speech. Let's shut it down. Let's shut God down and Jesus down for their hate speech. Let's shut down Mount Sinai, hate speech. It started there with the Ten Commandments. How dare you tell me I'm wrong? How dare you tell me what to do? Who do you think you are, God? Yes, he does. He is God. And they want to deny there is a God. And so when they do that, they come to crazy conclusions. Crazy conclusions. They go, what they're espousing, they're saying they want freedom, this and that, and they want to undo the freedoms that are built in. And so they can't think logically. Again, the first premise, the big premise of life, the big decision everybody makes, okay? And it has a couple of subsets. Is there a God? Do I believe there's a God? And what do I do about that? If do I decide there is no God? Because it's a decision, okay? So some people decide, you know what? If there is a God, if it's the God of the Bible, then that means I have to carry the cross. I have to change. I have to recognize sin and deny myself. Jesus says, you cannot be my disciple unless you deny yourself daily, take up your cross and follow me. Because our God is a God of sacrificial love. He sacrificed on the cross for love of us, and he asks us to say no to sin, yes to prayer and a life of grace for sacrificial love of him. And so it's an exchange. What are the great love stories that sell in the movies where the bride or the groom have to make great sacrifices to share the love and get together, right? That's the one that sells. The boring one where there's no sacrifice, no controversy, difficulty. Who watches that? So the reality is that we are involved in a powerful love story with God, and there's an enemy coming to take that love away, to take the truth away. The forces of hell, the forces of darkness, the forces of evil underlying what we see happening in politics. So we make a decision, is there a God? Okay? And when you read the parable of the sower, where it says, the seed of the word of God comes, so they hear about God, and Satan comes and takes it away at once. What does that mean? means they've made a decision. You know what? God might be there, but I don't want to believe in God because then I have to change. Therefore, I'm going to say no to God. No God in this life. Don't believe it. I do what I want, when I want. It's my life. That's it. No cross, no sacrifice, no God, no Bible. Boom. So they make that false premise. You know, what is it the founding fathers wrote? We hold these truths to be self-evident. Not anymore. God is no longer self-evident. So they make that decision. Then there's another group that at least is honest and says, you know, I don't know if there's a God or not, but if you're there, Lord, I'm going to attempt to communicate. And I've heard wonderful stories of people who had trouble believing in God, but wanted to know if there was a God and reached out to him and said, Lord, if you're there, you know, show me, guide me to you. And they do. They get close to, the Lord has amazing stories of reaching out. Engage God. Talk to him. He's ready to hear you. He can hear everything you say, everything you think. He can see right into your heart, mind, and soul, like the noonday sun. He knows everything you're thinking, everything you're going to say, even before you do. So the love of the Lord is important. So people reaching out to God. So they make a decision, going to believe in God or I'm not going to believe in God. Or if I don't believe in God, I'm going to try to believe in God or at least give God a chance if he's there. Then the ones that make the decision there is a God, what kind of God do I believe in? Well, very fashionable now is the Buddha God, you know, because the Buddha God doesn't have 10 commandments. You know, you can do what you want in terms of the 5th and 6th commandment, you know, and Buddha, he's kind of cool. He's kind of fat, dumb, and happy, sits on a cushion, serves quality hors d'oeuvres, you know, orders pizza, you know, and, you know, he's groovy. I can believe in God, so I've solved that problem, because really, when you decide there is no God, you create more philosophical and scientific problems than you have if you do believe there's a God. There's problems either way, arguments, but, you know, if you say there is no God, then you got a problem. This universe is an accident, all this incredible advanced design of life forms and my consciousness and all these things just happened, you know, it's a very big problem logically and scientifically. So then when you accept there is a God, then you go to the next part, you know, I want my Buddha God, because my Buddha God doesn't tell me to do anything. He's cool, you know, I can do what I want. But then there's that Jesus guy. He's a problem, you know, because he tells us, carry your cross, deny yourself, take up your cross daily and follow me. You need to pray. You need to say no to sin. You need to keep the 5th and 6th commandment. Recognize and live the truths of God. So again, the state doesn't like that. So the state is going to militate against that. We have, you know, the culture, universities, you know, attacking. Ultimately, it's about God, you know. That's really where the action is. And that's what's going on in the hearts of many young people. You know, and that's why they want to, I don't want to hear, I want a safe space. I don't want to hear your hate speech. What, you don't want to hear God exists? You don't want to hear the 10 Commandments? You don't want to hear the truth? You know, it's going to upset you? Gee, sorry about that. But, you know, life is tough, you know. And so we need to recognize that our job is to live out, you know, the commandments, and also, if we can, to live out the work of mercy, to convert or admonish the sinner. The universities and you know, and places like that, they consider that hate speech. Don't tell me I'm wrong if I'm having an abortion. Don't tell me I'm wrong if I change the order of, you know, man and woman in marriage, or if I want to separate intimacy that belongs only in marriage and bring it outside for recreational entertainment and pleasure purposes. I'm going to redesign the plan of God. You know, I'm going to do what I want. Well, God says you can do that, but you're going to have to answer for it, because I created the world. I created the truths of science, the laws of gravity, and the laws of the body and the soul and life, called the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments and the law of gravity, the laws of science, all come from the same source, God. And there is objective truth. It's not subjective. Try deciding, if someone comes in to rob a bank, you know what, I feel that gun that he's pointing at me doesn't have any bullets. Okay? There you can try that thing. I think it doesn't exist, therefore it doesn't. Try that. See how it works out for you. The bullet will give you a powerful truth at high speed. You know, defy the law of gravity. I don't believe in the law of gravity. Jump off a building. You know, are you going to break the law, or is the law going to break you? You know, so the reality is that there is objective truth. It's not subjective, it's objective. Either Jesus Christ is the Son of God or he's not. Either the Eucharist is truly the living bread come down from heaven, the presence of Christ on the earth, or it's not. It can't be one way for me and one way for you. You know, there's certain things that are subjective. You like a particular color, you like a particular topping on your pizza, subjective. Objective truths, different. The truths of God, the truths of science, they are objectively true, and whether we feel or not, I can't say, oh, I don't believe there's a hell, therefore it doesn't exist. I don't believe there's a heaven, therefore it doesn't exist. I don't believe there's a God, therefore he doesn't exist. Wow, can you imagine that? You got the power to decide that God doesn't exist and he goes away. Imagine that. I don't think so. We didn't create ourselves, and we know that. We were created. We were created by God. We're here, we have life, we have consciousness. And so we need to recognize the truth of God. We need to thank God. We need to be vigilant. We need to stay awake and not be sleeping. And so ultimately that is the message of the gospel. And again, the culture is going to push against us with all kinds of terms, hate speech and this and that. Well, it's really at war. They're at war with God, because God says this is a sin and it's wrong and you do the right thing or I'm going to wind up judging you. Say, oh, I don't want to hear that. That sounds hateful. Oh no, I want to do what I want. So they're at war with God. They're at war with the truth. And can you really defeat God? So the Pharisees who crucified Jesus said, well, done with him. One less troublemaker, glad that's over with. And then what happened? The Roman soldiers show up. Uh-oh, what do you mean the angels came and he's risen from the dead? Okay, they have a little conference. We've got a problem. Jesus is no longer dead, he's resurrected. We got to stop him if we can. As if they could, really? So then they go and they get the money together and they bribe the guards. Because you know what happens to a Roman soldier if you fall asleep on duty? You're executed. So the reality is that they tried to use money to cover up the truth, but it doesn't work. So those that make war against God, all they do is increase the glory of God and destroy themselves. So the martyrs that they killed, Saint Stephen, the men that killed Saint Stephen, the first martyr, the ones who crucified Christ, what did they do? Christ was put in a position to redeem the world by his suffering. Saint Stephen, the first martyr, got the crown of martyrdom forever, an extra reward in heaven. And what about the men that killed Saint Stephen, that stoned him to death? What about those who crucified Christ? What did they get? A big problem, because you cannot escape the cross. If you run away from the cross and reject it in this life, on the day you die, it's there waiting for you, and it's bigger and scarier than ever in eternity. Because when we accept the teaching of God, we become servants and we carry our cross. At death, we're done with the cross. The cross of sacrificial love is transformed into a throne of peace and joy and happiness. We get to sit next to Christ in the eternal reign of the kingdom of God. And those that rejected the cross in this world and chose evil and darkness and lies and hatred and sin, well, the cross caught up with them in the next world. And they get to have one forever. Extremely frightening. The Psalm says, "Save me, O Lord, from men whose reward is in this world." Jesus says in the sermon in the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, "Amen, I say to you, they have had their reward." I don't know about you, but if this is as good as it's going to get for eternity, I don't want that deal, okay? Life is full of suffering, pain, and problems. And Jesus says in the book of Revelation, he says, "I make all things new. I will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more suffering, pain, or death, or sorrow. All things will be new." So let's go with the God of truth, and let's resist the culture of death with the God of life.